Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to more volatility. Yes, this week is going to be extreme volatility from today, tomorrow, and Friday. You're going to get a lot of economic data and you're going to get Tesla earnings in after hours. And we're going to go over what the expectations are for Tesla earnings. The one thing and one thing only that investors in Tesla care about that I think will be very bullish. Now, if you guys are watching this after Tesla earnings have came out, well, we're going to make another video going over Tesla earnings, all the numbers, everything that was said, the earnings call, literally everything will be provided to you guys in the next video. This video is to highlight and go over the extreme volatility that we are going to see over the next couple of days, especially with Tesla and Tesla reporting earnings, which if you guys are not a follower of this channel, you definitely want to hit that subscribe button because we have been calling for a bullish rally in Tesla after earnings, and I think it might just happen here in a couple of hours. So let's get into this information, guys. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and let's just dive straight into it. So Tesla reports earnings after the bell Wednesday. Tesla reports Q4 earnings after market close on Wednesday. Shareholders are seeking updates on the company's automotive gross margins and demand outlook after Tesla implemented steep price cuts. And this is the first time that I heard an external source actually say this, but this is literally the only thing that matters. So if you see Tesla up in the after hours off of earnings, it's because one of these two reasons. It's not going to be because they, had more net profits or higher top line revenue. It's not going to be none of that. It's either going to be the margins, which I guess could be net income, and what the demand looks like after the price cuts and what guidance really is for 2023. That's going to be the only thing that investors really care about coming on earnings, because like I've said many times, if Tesla grows deliveries by 50%, even if they sacrifice 2 to 3% on margins per vehicle, the stock's extremely undervalued. If Tesla only grows at 30% in 2023 and sacrifices 2 to 3% on margins due to the price cuts, well, it's probably overvalued, right? It would be like borderline, maybe I want to sell this stock. Obviously not if you're a long-term investor, but if you're a value investor and you're looking for something with a lot of growth that has a high multiple like Tesla, then maybe that wouldn't be your kind of company. Nonetheless, I do think due to the soft data that we have gotten after Tesla's price cuts, that the only expectation that I can really see and have personally is that we're going to get good numbers, or at least good guidance, coming from Elon and Tesla due to these price cuts. So I do think you're going to get that positive reaction in the stock, but if we don't get guidance until the earnings call, that's where a lot of the quote-unquote volatility could actually take place, because it's going to be interesting how the release actually comes out, if they lead with the guidance, if they lead with the numbers, how they end up giving us that data. But that is the only thing that really matters to investors. And like I said, we're going to break down all of this information after earnings do come out. Now, a bit of news that happened on Tesla today is this, and it's very interesting. So Elon Musk explores raising up to $3 billion to pay off Twitter debt. They're talking about raising capital, and now Tesla stock started to rip higher off of this, and I do think this is a positive thing. If you can take some of that burden off of Twitter and off of Elon, he won't have to sell more Tesla stock. And the way that Wall Street Journal actually phrased this, obviously they don't like Tesla too much and they don't like Elon too much, is that he'll have to like raise capital in Tesla. That's kind of the way they try to portray it. I don't think Tesla investors bought that, because the stock instantly went up off of this news. And I do think this is a positive if we get confirmation of this not being the case, that he's not going to sell more Tesla, he's not going to raise capital using Tesla stock. So I do think this was a little bit of FUD that was kind of meant to cause a little fear in the stock, that ultimately is a bullish thing for the company. Now, on top of all of that, what we're expecting out of earnings as well is the announcement of the new factory, and it's kind of up in there if it's going to be Northeast Mexico or if it's going to be Indonesia or if it's just going to be the semi-truck factory in Nevada. Either way, I think we're going to get updates, and that could provide us a time frame to go off of. Also, investors are hoping for an update from the Cybertruck. All things considered, there's like hundreds of thousands of Cybertrucks that are on backlog. I believe there's over 1 million now. It's a really, really high number, and it just continues to go higher. So once that actually gets into production, those are pretty much already sold vehicles that we're just waiting for them to be delivered on. So I think that could also give us a lot of optimism with Tesla earnings. Now, as far as the rest of earnings, and I apologize for my daughter. She's just going crazy today, guys. I tried to get her to do an intro for you, but she was not having it. And then she wanted to do the intro when we already started the video. 2-year-old little girl for you. But as far as after hours today, like I said, Tesla, ServiceNow, IBM, Lam Research, Steel Dynamics, Crown Castle, Wolfspeed, Las Vegas Sands, CSX, and Seagate. Tomorrow, pre-market, you're going to have a lot of travel. American Airlines, Southwest, JetBlue, and Alaska Airlines. You're also going to have a lot of credit card and more fintech kind of stocks as well. Pre-market Thursday, MasterCard, Visa, and after hours tomorrow, and American Express on Friday. You're also going to get semiconductors, right? It's going to affect semiconductors. We know NVIDIA has not reported earnings. We know AMD has not reported earnings, but Intel will be Thursday and after hours. So it will move around those companies depending how Intel earnings do come out. And really, if you like to trade AMD or Intel earnings, playing the sympathy is usually a better bet. Like when Intel reports earnings on Thursday, I can't even tell you how many times I've hit 1,000% playing AMD the opposite way, right? If you expect Intel to be bad, you play AMD hoping for a positive sympathy reaction. You can hit a lot of trades like that, right? So that's why we're calling this out. Certain sectors will be important throughout the rest of this week, but you're not really going to get an S&P 500 kind of move based off of these earnings. That's going to be next week with Apple, Amazon, Google, right? Those are the companies that can really move things around. As far as what we've seen out of Microsoft had pretty good numbers, but they gave us weak guidance. So the beginning of the day and a majority of the day, the markets were down like 1%. You are starting to come back. Obviously, today, the S&P is only down about 0.3% at the time of recording this video. So that is surely a good thing heading into Tesla earnings, and you are above this key descending level of resistance. So if earnings are good today, and the data is good throughout the rest of this week, and next week earnings are good, that's going to be a very positive thing for the broad markets in 2023, especially since there has been so much fear that earnings are going to be so bad. If they're not that bad, well, maybe the multiples make sense where they are. If we avoid a recession and the Fed does stop raising rates soon, maybe it makes sense to be trading at these prices. It will still keep a cap on the markets because you're not going to see huge improving margins. You're not going to see huge revenue or net increase or net income increases to companies by and large, or to the S&P 500. But as long as you just don't drop in a huge way, that could be very positive. Now, where the extreme volatility really comes in throughout the rest of this week, in my opinion, is going to be the data. So 8:30 in the morning, you have tomorrow durable goods orders month over month for December, and the GDP growth rate quarter over quarter advanced data for Q4. You're expecting 2.7% to the GDP rate. That is very high. That's not pricing in a low GDP print to get a higher one and people are like, oh my gosh, we expected a flat GDP and it came out at 2%, right? You're not going to get that. It's already expected at 2.7%, so expectations are high. Same thing for durable goods orders for December. In November, you were down 2.1%, negative 2.1%. Now you're expecting a positive 2.2% in for December. So you are expecting a lot. of good news out of these two data points coming tomorrow, and that's where some upset expectations could come into play. You also have initial jobless claims coming out tomorrow as well for January 21st, expected to come out 202,000 initial jobless claims. I don't think this will be important considering the earnings, considering the other two pieces of data that we just talked about, unless you get like a big standard deviation move. Like if the initial jobless claims come out at like 500,000, well, that's probably going to cause a pretty big move, and that might not be seen as a huge positive thing. Or if the initial jobless claims come in at 100,000, right, getting a very statistically unlikely number, be it the standard deviation, that will be important, and hopefully I'm not losing you guys here. Long story short, if none of that made sense, if the move is much higher or much lower than expectations as far as the data, right? If the numbers are much higher or much lower, I should say. I don't even know what I'm talking about. If they're much higher or much lower, that's where you can get a bigger move than not in the stock market. If they come out in line or 10, 20, 25, 30,000 above or below, I don't think you're going to get a reaction at all in the markets. Now, Friday, you have core PCE price index month over month for December. This is what the Fed pays attention to. You're expecting a positive 0.1%. Last month, you expected 0.3%. It came out at 0.2%. So that was 33% better than expectations. But you're expecting from November to December, the core PC index to fall about 50%, going from 0.2 to 0.1. So again, you are pricing in that it's falling. If it's not falling as much, if it comes out at 0.2 like it did in November, it's not going to be good. Personal income month over month as well, 8:30 in the morning. This one is very interesting. So November's personal income was 0.4%. It was expected to be 0.2%, so it was 100% better than expectations. Well, now for December, you're expecting a 0.3% increase, so still very high expectations. But personal spending, that came out in November of 0.1%. You were expecting a negative 0.1% reading, and now you're again expecting a negative 0.1% reading. So if it comes out better than expectations, I think that will be positive because, hey, maybe you aren't going into a recession. But if this comes out at like a negative, right, negative 0.5% for personal spending, that's not going to be good, and it's not going to bode well for potentially company earnings throughout 2023. So that could cause a lot of fear in the markets as well. And these data points are going to give us extreme levels of volatility. Now, whether they are positive or negative, I think you can see big moves in either direction, but it's somewhat capped to the upside. So just be very wary about that until we get the big dogs, Apple, Amazon, Google, that report earnings, and those are okay, then you can see a bigger move to the upside. Until we get those earnings, the market makers, they're going to keep a cap on this market, guys. So that is basically going to be it in this video. Like I said, we will be back to talk about Tesla earnings in the next video, so stay tuned for that one. That is it. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.